have the challenge of the little people too. It's a good challenge to have because it means you get creative, and that's what this whole month has been about. That's what this whole morning has been about. You know, it's creativity and prosperity, and I want to make something really, really clear. And if everybody could just close their eyes for a second. And pray with me. God, please set aside everything I think I know about prosperity and about who I am for a new experience. Amen.
Amen.
So prosperity is simply the multiplication of our thoughts. You know? Like, our thoughts are rabbits. You know, and rabbits multiply. Our thoughts do the same thing, and we can be prosperous in a positive way, or we can be prosperous in a negative way. And it's all up to us. But it's not. You know, that reading that we just said, that just got read, thank you, Crystal, says we can't tame our tongues. But yet we can be healers. So that says to me that we need some help. Yes, you would know, Pat. You're the ACIM queen.
You're in my business.
But today I want to talk to you about the law of quantum physics and how to make it work. Okay? All right. So Jesus knew this law of quantum physics. Buddha knew this law of quantum physics. Lots of people know this law of quantum physics. Ernest Holmes knew this law of quantum physics. I know this law of quantum physics, and so do you. The thing is, do we do it intentionally? So scientists are starting to prove this law of quantum physics. And the law is that whatever we think, whatever we feel, whatever we say, impacts the very smallest particles. You know, scientists call them atoms and neutrons and protons. And you don't have to know what those are in order to understand that the smallest thing changes everything. Yes. And enough small things stacked up on top of each other become massive. And they become the people that we are and the lives that we lead. So what they've said is that they can prove that human thoughts, human feelings, and human words change what happens to these atoms and neutrons and protons. And when they're looking at these things and they're thinking positive thoughts, when they're speaking positive words over them, when they're feeling positive things, these things get excited and they move around, right? And when they do negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, they get listless and they get despondent. And they kind of look like we do when we're in depression, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know that feeling. You can tell a depressed person because of the way that they talk, because they're mumbling. You know, you can tell that by the way that they hold their body. You know, they all do this, right? I mean, I know what depression is. I've lived with it, you know? But it's not my way. It's not me, right? So the opposite of that is the positive. And that's what this law of quantum physics is about. You know, it says we can change this by asking for some support. You know, we can change everything about our physiology by feeling it. Okay? Like, I've seen people, and I do it myself, like, if I get into one of those states, I know I can come back to my body if I'm just, yes!
All right, man.
You know, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you do it all the time. I've seen Nick do it. So I want to give you some pointers about how to do this. And I want to tell you a story about this. And that is that, can you guys hear me? Okay, because I like to wander. I've kind of done that in the past, but I am a wanderer. So let me tell you this story about Jesus. We've all heard the Bible called to me all week long after hearing the sermon from Reverend Michelle about declarations and proclamations and all of that prosperity stuff. So Jesus tells this story and he says, you can move mountains. You can move mountains if you have faith.
That's right.
But the rest of that story is not really talked about that often. So the rest of the story goes like this. Jesus was going someplace, and it was an early morning, and he was hungry. There you go. He was hungry.
That's right.
And when he was looking down the road a little ways, he saw a fig tree, and he says, oh my goodness, I'm going to have myself a fig breakfast. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to have myself a fig breakfast. And so he goes up to this tree, and he's looking all over this tree, and he's looking all over this tree, and there's no figs. It's just a big, bushy tree, you know? And he looks at this tree, and he says, there is never going to be fruit off of this tree again. You will not give anybody fruit. And the tree withered. And all that was left of it was a stick. And his disciples were like, did you see that? What just happened? How did you do that? And Christ told him, you know, you can do the same exact thing that I just did. If you have faith. And you can remove the mountain of human problems. Did you hear that? The mountain of human problems. If you have faith and will speak to them. Okay? So that leads me to some points. Because I really want to teach you guys how do we practice that law of quantum physics and how do we do it in a way that's easy.
Come on now.
Okay? So,
I want some easy.
we don't easy. I like easy too. So the first thing is that we have to realize that we have some pruning to do in our mental gardens. Alright? Everybody's got stinking thinking. It's part of the experience of human life. We read it in James. If we have a mind full of have-nots, can-nots, should-nots, we're going to get the want-nots.
Really?
Okay? So literally, if our egos can take a hold of our thoughts and our tongues and our feelings, it's gonna rip us to shreds. Over and over again, we're told the devil does this. Well, the devil's in the details. Your thoughts, your words, and your emotions. Your ego gets a hold of that, it will rip you to shreds. So what I'm saying is that if you spend all your time looking at the problem instead of thinking about the solution, how do you ever expect to live in the solution? So we have some pruning to do, and it's okay. That's the first step. We got some pruning. So then the second one is we have to learn to call in supernatural help. And that's what the reading is about. Supernatural help. Now, I'm a reader, and I've read a lot of books. Because that's my biggest hobby. And nowhere have I read that we must do this life thing on our own, or that it is a self-help exercise. I've read repeatedly that if you call on the Holy Spirit to help you, when you find problems, when you find things that need to be pruned, it goes to work for you.
Yes, yes.
So, I've also read that when you call in supernatural help, it says, wait on the Lord, and the Lord will take care of it. Now, I think of the Lord as, God, Spirit, the law. It means many things to me. So don't be offended. Don't turn off. Okay? So when you catch yourself looking at the problem and saying, yes, that's me. I do this thing, I get angry, I lose my temper, I've been bawling like a baby recently. So, everybody does it. I get ashamed and then I cry about it. You see, can anybody relate to that? Mm-hmm. No, yeah, most of you guys. So, instead of saying, that's me, I need to work on that, stop.
That's not you.
That's not me. That's not me. And there's nothing about that I have to work on. Right? But maybe if I take some of the advice that I've been given in the course and in the Bible and in the Science of Mind book that you guys read a lot of, if I take this and I take the advice and I call in some supernatural help and I stop trying to take the bull by the horns because maybe it's not my reins, and I just do what, I say, please help me. This is not me. I don't want to be like this. I don't even want to pretend to be like this because I'm not a poser. And then say, thank you, and move on. Move on. Move on. Let Spirit work. Okay? So then the third thing is that we have to stop trying to have our own way. Do you remember what it said in the reading that Crystal did for us this morning? It said that we cannot get apples from a raspberry bush. Or maybe it said we can't get raspberries from an apple tree. But it means the same thing, right? If you're not a raspberry bush, you're not going to give off raspberries. Okay? No matter what you try to do about it, it's just not going to happen. You are treated. Thank you. Thanks, you've proven it for me. Treated. So if we're trying to do these things, trying to have our own way, then we're going to be stepping on the toes of our fellows and they're going to retaliate. And we're going to think life sucks. But that's the whole point. Some people are meant to give apples. If you're meant to give apples, give apples. Stop trying to give raspberries. Let someone else do the raspberry giving. That's what this is about. Ask instead for wisdom about who you are and what you are supposed to do in every situation. All right? So then the fourth thing is that we have to understand that asking for wisdom changes our beingness.
Yes.
Okay? So we're not going to be the same people that we were. How many people have sung those songs? Make me somebody different, make me something different, and then you start to notice that you're different. Well, I don't know about you, but when I become something different, I get freaked out. I have these opportunities to be kind, and now it's like kind of a thing that I do. I'm just kind of kind. And I'm like, who was that? And I'm irritated. Like, I can't believe I didn't just give him a piece of, I should have given him my fist. And it's like, wait a second. If I was supposed to do that, I would have done that. But I still have those parts of me that need to be pruned, right? So that might cause irritability, discontent, and hypersensitivity. So what? It happens. It's not, sometimes it's ugly. So then the fifth thing, so in other words, I'm saying stop taking yourself so seriously. So the fifth thing is that we need to start to pay attention to what we are thinking. If you're constantly thinking something negative, and you begin to ask yourself constantly, do I really want what I'm thinking? Your thoughts are going to change. So you're driving along and you're thinking, I don't know, I do my best thinking, my best non-thinking in the car. I'm never going to get to this place on time. Do I have enough money in the bank? Oh my God, I'm going to be in trouble. And then my whole body locks up. I do my best thinking in the car. And then I have to remind myself, or somebody has to remind me, do you really want those things to happen? I already know what's going to happen. I already know how it's going to feel because my body feels it, It tells on me. I know when I'm thinking what thoughts I shouldn't be thinking. And so then it's like, oh, wait. Well, if I don't want that, what do I want?
There you go.
I want green lights.
Yes, yes, yes. Come
Right?
on.
I want to be on time.
Yeah.
I want to feel good about where I'm going, no matter what time I show up. Okay? So ask yourself, when your body starts to lock up, when your face starts to go crazy, what do I want? And that's where the 6th point comes in. We need to start finding what the promises over our lives really are. You can find promises in this Bible. You can find promises in ACIM. You can find promises everywhere. But if you can't believe those promises, you need to find the promises over your life. Right? And that whole teacher thing, I was sitting there going, I can't be a teacher because I screw up more than anybody I know. There you go. But if, that's how I learn. Maya Angelou says, when you learn, teach. Right? When you teach, learn. So I'm going to learn a lot. And I'm going to have to examine a lot. And so are you. Because we're all teachers and leaders. In our families, in our relationships, in our jobs. And so that gets me to the 6th point, which is finding what the promises in our lives really are. So the other day I was having a mini freak out session. I've been having them kind of recently. And my friend sat me down the other day because I was in a mess with all these thoughts happening, and they were conflicting with each other. I needed some serious pruning. And she said to me, what are you saying to yourself? What's your affirmation? And I literally went like that. Really? And I said to her, that positive thinking stuff don't work. And she was like, are you kidding me? And I had this moment of, wait a second, maybe I need to get out of my head what's in my head, and I need to listen to what this woman is saying to me, because she's probably right. God speaks through people. God has skin faces. And so I told her that, I didn't agree with all the positive affirmation stuff because I could only sit there and think about, I love gardens. Our mind is our garden. Prosperity is our garden. All I could sit there and think was, well, positive affirmations does this to me. I'm looking at my garden and it's full of weeds, and I'm like, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds. And I open my eyes and there's still weeds. Right? And she's like, well, wait a second. And I'm paraphrasing here. So she said, wait a second. Affirmations are not denials of the current situation. They're declarations of the solution. They're declarations of the promise, right? So I'm sitting there beating myself because it's a 2x4. Okay, and we came up with an affirmation that really works because it came out of my life. I'm a master of finance, and I'm here to share the message about money, right? That's what I do, whether it's your cash money or your energy. So that brings me to the question, what does your life tell you about the promises that are spoken over you? What does God have in store for you that you are unwilling to see and accept? And start speaking those promises over your life. So the 7th one is to be consistent, because you are a child of God. And I know I've said this before, but you are the Christ. The Spirit of the universe lives and moves and has its being and is breathing through you. So that makes me say, how do you talk to your problems? Do you get down on your knees and ask them to go away? No, you don't. If you're all the way here and you're a child of God, and the Spirit lives and moves and breathes through you, your problems are under your feet. They're under your feet. So you speak down to your problems and up to your spirit. God, move this. Spirit, move this. In the name of the Lord, come here now. Not, please go away. Please go away. I do that too, so I know what I'm talking about. Now. Okay? And the eighth thing is to get your swagger back. I'm all about swagger. You know, George Clooney walks into a room, and the whole room goes, boom. Because he's got something, right? I was walking down the street, and people I didn't know were, literally this morning, people I didn't know were like, damn, that's sexy.
The men all pause.
I'm like, thank you. The reason they said that wasn't because of the way that I look, although I do look pretty good today. It's because I have my swagger back.
Yes, indeed.
I got my will to live, and that's all this swagger is. I have got a will to live. Get that back. All right, I got 2 more. All right? So when you feel that divine discontent, and you know what I'm talking about, my hair's not working, my clothes ain't doing it, this relationship isn't working, and that job isn't either. Quit complaining. Get curious about it. What would happen if I cut my hair differently? What would happen if I actually showed up in my relationship and was the love that I want? You know, what would happen if I showed up at my job and acted like I deserved the raise? Well, if I deserved the raise, I'm a business owner, you know, and I got to that place because I thought I deserved the raise. And when I thought I deserved the raise, I did what people do who have the job that I wanted, which was I got educated. You know, I changed my thinking. Get curious. That's all it's about. Divine discontent. I'm going to share this with you because I think it's powerful. You guys know who Angelina Jolie is, right?
Yes.
Woo, apparently you guys do. You know who Brad Pitt is, right? All right. Whoops. So he says, and I happen to know his coach because he's one of my teachers. And he says, yes, coaches are a good thing.
Good thing.
Get curious, get yourself a coach. That's divine discontent. So he says, my wife got sick. She was constantly nervous because of problems at work, personal life, her failures and problems with children. She had lost 30 pounds and had weighed about 90 pounds. She was only 35 years old. She got very skinny and she was constantly crying. She was not a happy woman. She had suffered from continued headaches, heart pain, and jammed nerves in her back and ribs. She did not sleep well, fallen asleep only in the morning, and got tired very quickly during the day. Our relationship was on the verge of breakup. Her beauty was leaving her somewhere. She had bags under her eyes. She was poking her head, pulling at the, and stopped taking care of herself. She refused to shoot movies and rejected any role. I lost hope and thought that we would get divorced soon. But then I decided to act on it. After all, I've got the most beautiful woman on the earth. She is the ideal of more than half of men and women on earth. And I was the one allowed to fall asleep next to her and to hug her shoulders. I began to pepper her with flowers, kisses, and compliments. I pleased her. I surprised her and pleased her every minute. I gave her lots of gifts and lived just for her. I spoke in public about her. I incorporated all themes in her direction. I praised her in front of our own and mutual friends. You won't believe, but she has blossomed. You guys know she has. You've seen her on the news recently, looking really good. She became even better than before. She gained weight, was no longer nervous, and she loved me even more than ever. I had no clue that she could love that much. And then I realized one thing. The woman is the reflection of her man. So if your relationship isn't doing it, show up. Because the man is the reflection of a woman, and your job is a reflection of you, and you are a reflection of your God. So if your God is not big enough, get a bigger God. Get a bigger God. Alright? So the ninth thing is to embrace the change. The same principles that were once your problems are now your solution. Dude, I used to be angry and I couldn't find peace. Peace was my problem. Not anger. Anger did it for me. Peace was the principle that was my problem. I used to be really afraid, and sometimes I still am. But courage was my problem, not fear. I knew what to do about fear. I could stick my head in the sand and ignore everything and do what I wanted to do. Courage was my problem. Today, it's hard for me to lose my temper when I want to. Peace has become my solution. The principle that was my problem is now my solution. Embrace that. That's what pruning does. That's what getting a bigger God does. Bigger gods have bigger solutions. And here's the last thing. And you guys hear me say it over and over and over again. If you want to be prosperous, give thanks. Give thanks. With every part of your being, give thanks. Thank the universe for the pruning, even though it hurts. You might scream and kick and get some of that hypersensitivity going on. Thank the universe for the thoughts that changed your life, for the gifts that you now use to serve others, for the relationship that challenges you to become more than you currently think that you are, and for the job that encouraged you to become bigger and better at your career, or possibly moved you on to the next one, and so that you are a apple tree giving off apples instead of a raspberry tree trying to force the issue. So, with that, I am complete.